many times have we been told by green propagandists that solar and wind are taking over for fossil fuels as sources of energy? How many times have these eco-activists told us that we have to keep oil and gas in the ground? The worst part is that people and politicians are actually buying into these myths and implementing carbon taxes and all sorts of other measures, all in the name of stopping pollution. But I have news for you. Oil and gas are here to stay. They're cheap and reliable, and we have plenty of both right here in Canada. And this isn't just my opinion. These are facts from the International Energy Agency. Solar and wind make up for less than a percentage of energy right now and will only make up for just under 3% by 2040. And those stats also show that just like today, our major sources of energy will still be coal, oil, and gas by that time. And Canada's trends for production in the oil sands reflect that too. According to the Canadian Association of Petroleum Producers' latest forecast, oil sands projects are expanding and production will increase by 1.3 million barrels per day by 2030. Even Canada's National Energy Board stats predict that production shows that the oil sands do and will make up the majority of production in Canada to 2040 and beyond. This all makes total sense with the data coming from the International Energy Agency. You know what doesn't make sense? Not building pipelines and putting caps on oil sands emissions, knowing full well that oil and gas is here to stay, and the Canadian government is responsible for both of these measures. Rachel Notley has put a 100 megaton cap on emissions that will stunt oil sands production growth between 2025 and 27. And we've already seen the Liberals put a stop to important projects like the Northern Gateway Pipeline, and they're guaranteed to face opposition from John Horgan and Andrew Weaver, leaders of the BC NDP and Greens who have formed a deal to fight the Trans Mountain Pipeline that the Liberal government has already approved. So this isn't adding up at all. What's going to replace fossil fuels when projections show that we actually need to increase production and meet demand? Those same projections show that nuclear, hydro, bioenergy, wind, and solar combined won't produce the same amount of energy as just oil does by 2040. The reality is that they just aren't viable, and they're not cheap either. As I've pointed out in the past, Ontario's experiments with these options have led to energy poverty, where hydro bills can be higher than a mortgage payment there. Also, the Alberta NDP say they're going to bring in all of these measures to get pipelines built. They say that the 100 megaton cap will buy a social license. Except the government over in BC, our own Canadian government, is still fighting them. Meanwhile, the United States just opened its first coal plant under Donald Trump, have doubled their oil and gas production, built new pipelines, and even signed deals to let us build Keystone XL across their border. That would seem to be the logical choice for Canada too. Increase oil and gas production and build pipelines in order to get our oil and gas products to market. We have a wealth of resource to offer, having the 6th highest reserves in the world. And I haven't heard any complaints about the United States increasing production, lifting oil export bans, and shipping LNG to foreign markets. They didn't need a social license to do what's best for their country and sell their oil, so why should we? For the Rebel.media, I'm Holly Nicholas. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button for our Rebel Canada YouTube channel so that you don't miss the other side of the story in Canadian news.